interesting point about Ridley Scott. He didn't start directing movies until he was 40.
You still have time. You know you're chronically online. He literally told me, "Oh yeah, I'm doing Paul Mescal's winter arc workout routine." That's crazy. That's so niche. Who knows that? Like you're a full adult, not on social media.
I want to look like that. I want that power. I want Lucius power.
You sound
And
like all the little
aesthetics.
boys that I'm friends with. Paul is
Yeah.
beautiful. The movie is beautiful.
Wow.
Everything is great.
And welcome back to the Solo Movies. Blah! Welcome back to the Solo Moviegoers Club, a podcast where me, Sean, and my daughter Kaya see the same movie, but on opposite coasts, in theaters alone. And then we meet here and talk about it before we've had a chance to read anything about it or talk to anyone else about it. This was a good one. This week we saw,
Gladiator 2.
aside from, can I just say, like the worst title ever.
Really
Gladiator
bad.
2. Gladiator 2 is such a bad title. I mean, I get it, obviously, but I don't get it. Like anything. Gladiator, the next battle. Gladiator, return to the Colosseum. These are horrible ideas. They're still better than Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
That aside, what did you think about the movie?
I was in near tears at the end of it. It was so good. Another week where I rated it a 5 out of 5. And we went into it last week being like, oh, there's not going to be much to talk about. It's not going to be that good, blah, blah, blah. It was amazing. So I rewatched. I did watch Gladiator when I was younger. And I remembered parts of it, but I rewatched it and I was kind of disappointed. And then I had like such low expectations going into 2. And then I saw it. Oh my God, it was so good.
I can't believe you rewatched Gladiator and were disappointed. That movie's amazing. I wasn't that, like, I was kind of excited for this because I thought, like, I'm going to see a Sword and Sandals movie and I'm going to see gladiators fight and that's going to be a cool visual spectacle. But I thought the story was done. Like, I thought the story of Maximus and his family and his involvement with the Roman Empire was complete. I was very wrong. The movie was actually really good. It was like all the visual spectacle was really fantastic, but it was really engaging beyond that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm really interested to see. I believe the movie's doing pretty well, but I'm really interested to see what critics have to say about this later today because I can see them hating on this movie just because it's a sequel to a movie that didn't really need one. But
There
when
were
you
a lot
see
of
it, it kind of
haters.
did. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It like I don't feel anymore like this, like Gladiator didn't need a sequel. Like, just because it didn't need one, this was justified. Like, this didn't feel like, I know we talk a lot about how we're really happy when Hollywood makes new original ideas and does things that haven't been done before, but this is sort of a good counterpoint of when Hollywood does things well. Like, a master like Ridley Scott can do it really well. Like, this is so incredible, and I think this is just the kind of like big historical epic that doesn't come out very often, and lately when they've come out they haven't been great, and this was just like, I hope this reinvigorates the big historical epic because it was great.
Yeah, before we started this podcast and we were kind of talking about it, I went to go see Napoleon alone because I was so stoked about it. And it was honestly, I have to say, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was just like, even the battle scenes weren't super cool. It was super boring. So, like, seeing something like this and have it be really well done was exciting because I had such low standards for movies like this now. I feel like they don't make super cool, battle-y, manly movies like this anymore. But they're fun.
Oh man, this was I mean, Top Gun sort of did that, but in a very like specific way that original Top
This is
Gun
like
did. But
it feels like a period piece, though, in a way.
I mean, it is, but it
Yeah.
is a period piece. Like, it's the Roman Empire, but it's like the ultimate period piece that they've been making period pieces out of since the beginning of period pieces. But just in terms of being like a bro movie, there are so many good bro quotes in this movie that will be That like, do you remember? Did you make it into? Kaya quit watching Sopranos because she thought it was boring. But did you make it far enough to see when Ralph Cifaretto is obsessed with Gladiator?
I don't think so.
So he's like
I only
walking
got to
around.
season 2.
Okay, it's maybe season 3 or 4, and he's walking around like spouting Gladiator lines all the time, like what we do on Earth echoes in eternity, and then he's using it in like really inappropriate context. At one point, he's like beating a guy up with a chain or something, and he's for no reason, and he's saying Gladiator lines. But I feel like, I don't know if this is a thing, but the brosphere of the internet is going to be taking quotes from this movie and just going ham with it. And if not, they should be, because there's a lot of good ones. This is an old school kind of movie that they made, whereas Top Gun is sort of tongue-in-cheek, like you have to be in on the joke to get it. It's like so like macho and military, whereas what I thought was cool about this is from the very beginning, when you see Pedro Pascal's army defeats whatever was the last African territory that was left that the Roman Empire hadn't conquered, he's sad when they're burying the dead or burning the dead. He's really sad. You can tell there's no like joy in this for this guy. You can see like the futility of it in his face, and obviously he addresses this verbally later in the movie. But I guess before we get too deep into it, we should probably give a brief summary. And before we do that, how was your solo movie-going experience?
Okay, so I was looking up times for this movie, and I'm not even kidding. There were times like every 20 minutes, starting at 8:20 in the morning. It was like 8:20, 8:40, and this was at like every single theater. I saw this movie at like 9:30 in the morning, super early, and I didn't have time to get a coffee, so I went through my first drive-through I've ever been through in California, which was Starbucks, and I got a venti cold brew, and it was really gross, but I drank it anyway. And then I got to the theater, and the only people in there were 2 solo moviegoers that were dudes, which makes sense.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
How old?
So I would say like 40s, both of them.
So they were me.
Yeah, they were like just like you.
Cool.
Oh, and I want to say this thing. I can't remember if this happened the night before or the day after, but I was at Brandy Melville, and I overheard the 2 workers. They're young. They're probably like they're obviously my age. So the first girl was like, I downloaded Letterboxd today. And then the other girl was like, wait, what's that again? And she's like, it's for like reviewing movies and stuff and finding movies. And this boy's name, whatever it was, I can't remember, told me about it a while ago, and he's so hot, so I had to download it again to look at his top 4.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you just maybe got us Brandy Melville as a sponsor, and no chance that Starbucks ever will.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't like Starbucks, so that's okay.
Yeah, I don't care.
So I had like slammed some coffee at home first, and I sort of kind of had time to grab a coffee, sort of kind of didn't. So I went to the theater that I like going to that's right next to the coffee shop that I like going to, and I timed it so that I could see. I saw the movie at 2:30 on a Wednesday, but it was a Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so it was like not a real Wednesday. So the theater was pretty full. There was only one other solo moviegoer. Everybody else was in groups, and I did not have a coffee. I got a coffee immediately after the movie. Revolutionary move. But it was weird because I feel like most of the movies we've been seeing are kind of like movie people movies. And this is more of a mass audience movie. Plus, it's Thanksgiving weekend, which is a huge movie going weekend. So it was not like a movie people movie crowd. It was like a normal people movie crowd.
Yeah.
And
Normies.
Bro, these people don't know how to behave themselves in a theater. It was like the worst theater etiquette ever. Some old guy talking loudly to his like whole family, like kids and grandkids that were with him. I mean, loud conversations. He got shushed a couple times. People dropping things. Lots of like food opening noises. When we saw Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night, the guy that was unwrapping stuff that was in plastic wrap, whatever he was doing, with the suitcase. That was loud, but because he kind of seemed to be like a little off, it didn't bother me so much. It was like, whatever. This was annoying. These were just people who need to be trained to go to the movies. But anyways, I digress. I was a little bummed because when I booked the seats in advance, and there weren't many times and weren't many seats available. And it was a small theater, so I thought it was going to be a small screen. Not the case. It was like one of the very rare times when you're in a relatively small theater that has a giant screen. And I was in the back row, but the back row wasn't like way up high. I was kind of in the middle, and there was like a railing in front of me. I had the perfect seat. This was like the perfect, other than the loud people in the theater, this was kind of a perfect viewing experience. So that was good, despite me not having a coffee, which I was kind of sorely missing throughout the film.
Yeah. I feel like I always forget that Thanksgiving is the time when everyone goes to the movie theater, and I miss that. Like, I used to always go with like friends and stuff when I was cool and had friends, you know. But
yeah, I love it. It was actually I have a couple of Thanksgiving movie memories. One is I remember in high school I went to see Ali in the theater on Thanksgiving with some friends, and it was packed, and no one knew what that movie was going to be, and people were freaking out and like loving it, and like during the Ali fights, the crowd was cheering for Ali, and that was really cool. But years later, I ended up working on 2 different projects with one of the screenwriters of Ali, who was nominated for an Academy Award for it, which I was really excited about. That was one of the first experiences where I got to work with somebody whose work I had like truly nerded out on. And Stephen Revell is his name, and not to take this in a strange direction, but he died recently, and I just found that out. It was like really sad, but I'm gonna go off of that now. But anyways, like genuinely sad to have lost him. He's like a really great writer and a really cool guy. So anyways, respects to Stephen Revell. But other one, this is much happier, I guess. That was a happy memory. Now it's tinged with sadness, but still happiness. Genuinely happy one, which actually ties into this weekend. I want to see Moana 2 really bad, because not only do I like Moana, I think it's a good movie. The first movie that Kaya's little brother Atlas ever went to in the theater was Moana. And I remember vividly, we sat in the back row, and I put Kaya in the theater. She says she wasn't there. I swear she was.
I was not there. I saw it with my friends, and we were like in a theater alone, and we were throwing popcorn and dancing and making musicallys.
I still think she was there, but what my good memory of seeing Moana 1 and why I want to see Moana 2 in the theater is because we went. It was Atlas's first movie, and Mumsy breastfed him throughout the whole movie in the back of the theater, which is just like a funny memory to have. I actually have a picture of it somewhere, which I'll find out if it's appropriate or not, and maybe we'll post it along with this podcast. Maybe we won't. But yeah, Thanksgiving weekend, important movie weekend. I'm glad we saw this. I'm trying to get my parents to go see it. I think they dig it. So what was the movie about? Keep me to 2 minutes, but this might be the shortest summary ever.
Okay.
Tell me to go.
You want me to time it? God, this is so extra. Okay. Clock. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Gladiator 2 is about this kid who's fighting, or this guy who's fighting for the last African territory to not be conquered by the Romans. They get conquered. His wife gets killed. He gets taken as a slave. He then fights his way into becoming a gladiator. He then unites the people. There's all sorts of political, different political factions. You find out that these psychotic twin emperors are people are wanting to depose them. There's multiple factions vying for the crown, and it turns out that this kid is the son of Maximus from Gladiator 1, and the daughter, the little kid who gets taken away at the end of the movie. You don't really see him get taken away at the end of the movie, but at the end of the first one. But he's the son of what's her name, Lucilius, who is Marcus Aurelius's daughter, and the son of Maximus, who was the gladiator Russell Crowe played in the first one. And he has to try to fight his way to freedom, to unite the Roman people against not only these emperors, but all of the power brokers who will try to destroy the way of Roman life, so that he can create for the people what his father, mother, and grandfather before him wanted to do with Rome. He wants to bring the dream of Rome to life. And there's lots of fighting and violence and killing and sadness and wonderful victories that happen along the way.
You have 30 seconds left. So.
No, I'm good. I think we can just dive into it. I think this is one of those movies. This is like this is one of those movies, the best movie. Yeah, there's some really exciting plot twists and things that happen that we could go into the detail of, but I think it's more important not to. I always use, interestingly enough, another Ridley Scott movie, Alien, is my perfect example of a movie of how to describe a good plot. The movie Alien, they're on a spaceship, they're on the way home from a mission to Earth, they realize there's an alien on the spaceship, they have to try to kill it to survive. That's the plot. Everything else that happens are details, and this to me is like, and a lot the plot details are interesting, but it's not some big convoluted thing. It's like kid gets taken, he's of a mysterious background, he has to fight for his life, and he has to try to save the people he loves and the Republic that he's lost faith in, that he now regains faith in, and that's it. It's like this is it's a really great. I think we were talking last week about Hero with 1,000 Faces, and this is a really good character journey. It's not horribly indifferent from The Lion King or Hamlet, and Lion King is Hamlet, and there's a lot of similarities here with that they took with like the sun route, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I think there were amazing performances all around, and incredible action sequences. And what are your first thoughts? Like, what are the first things that you wanted to discuss when we got on this podcast today?
I have to say, this is the first movie I think that I've seen where I didn't think I wanted it to be 90 minutes. It was 2.5 hours, and I thought that it was perfect. Like, there was nothing that I thought could have been cut, and I feel like the pacing was really good. And even though, like, there were some parts where I was like at the beginning, I was like, okay, I know that this is the sun. Like, I already knew that, and I kind of could predict a few things, but I wasn't not entertained or engaged.
That one of the most famous lines from Gladiator is, "Are you not entertained?" That's what Maximus says when he's fighting in the arena. He's like, "Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?" And then Jay-Z very famously sampled it.
I didn't mean to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. When we saw that it was 2.5 hours long, I was like, how do I possibly need 2.5 hours of this movie? And maybe like 10 minutes in, I realized, oh, I'm going to need 2.5 hours of this movie. Yeah. Because when it starts off and I wasn't expecting it to start off with him having been adopted by this like African city and becoming one of the people, like becoming a real community member. Like he has to go through a whole life's journey. I mean, it's Spartacus, right? There's even a nice Spartacus moment that he has with the gladiators. This movie did a really good job of like, even it's really funny because Ridley Scott made Gladiator, but like paying homage to Gladiator and Spartacus in the movies that came before it in a way that felt really cool and not cheesy, and that I really dug. But I wasn't expecting it to begin with an animated recap of the first movie. It was
really good.
It was really good, and it could have been so bad.
Done. Yeah. They did something kind of similar in Napoleon. Like, I keep talking about Napoleon, but it truly was one of the worst solo movie-going experiences I've ever had in my life. And, like, this just redeemed all of that for me.
I have to say something interesting. This week, Kai and I were texting, and she was watching Gladiator 1, and she was saying that it reminded her of Napoleon, and she didn't know that Ridley Scott had directed both movies, which is a little bit mind-boggling, and we can talk about that later.
Well,
but the fact that you like
the Gladiator stuff, I didn't know that Gladiator was Ridley Scott at all.
Yeah, I thought that's what was interesting about it, was that you. But I was actually impressed that you could like feel the hand of his filmmaking to the extent that you felt the movies were similar, even though they're like not on the surface similar, but you didn't know that it was the same filmmaker. I thought that was pretty cool.
It makes sense though, because the historical context and stuff, like the sharks in the Gladiator 2, and like
the sharks were amazing. Yes, there's sharks in this Gladiator movie, and rhinos and baboons. They don't do the typical lions that you're expecting. That was for me. There were like a couple of moments where I got really excited that I can go through. Yeah. So there was a note that I took early on of like, this movie does a really good job of establishing how cheap life used to be. Like, you forget in some of these historical epics just how cheap life is. Like, people would go to war like I guess it still happens, but there's something about knowing that you're marching into hand-to-hand or you know, this kind of physical like arrows conflict where most people will die, and everybody just did it. Like, and this
Yeah.
movie calls that into question. This movie does a really good job of being, super violent, like very graphically violent war movie. Like, I was shocked by the violence at times. And this coming from a
Yeah.
guy who saw Terrifier 3 recently, this has more shocking violence than that does.
I prefer this kind of violence than like scary movie violence, to be honest. But yeah, it was super.
But most of these
gory.
movies don't really they don't go for the jugular. No, they don't go for the violence in a graphic way like this
Yeah,
did. And
this
I
one
think
did.
those moments, those are really shocking and powerful to me because you get a sense of truly how horrible the violence is. And like, there's no glory to this kind of warfare. There's no, like, this isn't good for anybody except for like the 0.1% of people that are in power. And we can talk more about that, but this movie does call into question the nature of power, which I thought was
Yeah.
really interesting. It's another movie where they Trojan horse in an idea that's like a pretty heavy one
Yeah.
into this movie that's just a big fun war epic. But the moment that I was like officially in for this movie was when Pedro Pascal takes his helmet off and cuts down the thing to get the drawbridge to go down so they can storm the castle.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, oh, this character is amazing. I also should say I'll probably screw up the names of Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal like 100 times on this
Yeah.
podcast. I'm sure I'm not the only person to be doing that. Not that they don't feel similar to me in any way. There's just a lot of P's and alls.
Yeah.
I really dug those creepy twin emperors when they first showed them, and
Yeah.
then, man, for me, like, if I wasn't hooked at the drawbridge moment when, and this is spoilers everywhere this time, when Lucius bites the monkey.
I was just going to talk about that. That's exactly what I was going to mention. That was like the part where I was like, this is going to be so good.
It is so unexpected, and you don't really know at first what. Like, I just assume when I see gladiators, it's going to be lions, and when the baboons are the first animals,
And
that
they
we
were
see,
like blue, like these weird little monkeys. I was like, this is so weird.
those were not little monkeys.
Well, they're
those
like,
were like man-sized
yeah.
monkeys.
Yeah, and they're like blue, and they look like monsters.
That was a
I guess.
choice. That was
Yeah.
interesting, and also to see like a dude just face off against a great ape, wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it. But
And I think like he had like such a good, I don't know, there's something about maybe, I don't know, just the way that like when they were making fun of him and stuff, like he was laughing along with them, like his character was so likable, and I thought that I was not going to like him.
he also had a really good sense of gallows humor. Like, there were moments where he
Yeah.
had kind of like a sick laugh at things that I really liked. And but
Me
yeah,
too.
it was cool because I did think when they were starting to make fun of him, I was like, oh, so they start making fun of him by hooting at him like a monkey because he was the guy that bit
Yeah.
the monkey. So it's very much like, have you ever seen these YouTube videos where like always a dude at Home Depot will start like doing a monkey howl, and then all the other dudes in the Home Depot will start doing the monkey howl? Have you seen this?
What's on your For You page? I don't know what this is at all.
Oh, I'll send it to you, and we can maybe edit it into this. But yeah, there's all these videos where it happens all the time. Somebody makes a monkey noise, and then everybody else starts making a monkey noise. And these dudes at this dinner started doing that, and I realized nothing has changed since Roman times. This is dudes are still sitting around hooting like monkeys. Yeah, I thought he was going to have to defend himself and
Yeah,
like
same.
attack the guys and like prove that he was a tough guy. But he proved he was even tougher because he wasn't bothered by being made fun of. It was like a
Yeah,
badge of
he's
honor.
just-
He's the guy that bit the monkey and he owned it.
Yeah. The whole time you assume he's going to have to prove himself, but he's just such a likable person that
He proves
everyone
himself on the
trusted him.
battlefield.
Yeah.
He proves himself on the battlefield. And he doesn't have to prove himself in petty ways because he does it in the big ways consistently. But yeah, the
Yeah.
monkey bite, we should give some context to it. So when the character we will come to learn is Lucius, who is an heir to the Roman throne, but he was given away as a child because the events of Gladiator 1, they wanted to keep him safe. He which is what? That's from Ben-Hur too, I think. But anyways, lots of homage there. That's good. But so he is when he's taken as a slave, and they take like the beefy guys to see who's going to be a gladiator, and then they always like always in these movies they have to see who can fight and who can't. Usually they have them fight other people. In this one, they had them fight a bunch of baboons. And his dude that raised him, that took him out of the desert and raised him as part of this group in Africa, gets killed pretty quickly. He was already really sick. And Lucius is hand-to-hand combat with a monkey while his hands are chained together, and he bites the monkey and defeats the monkey and then chokes him out MMA style. But it was such a cool, like, after the battle you're expecting, which is the siege of a city, to then see dudes fighting baboons was awesome. And then I loved the edit from, like, the barbarity of fighting in that monkey pit to then seeing the general who just sacked his city and who we will later learn is his mother in their, like, lavish whatever Roman townhouse with a koi pond. It's still, what I liked about it was, like, the barbarity to the piece, but still it's like man having dominion over animals. And then there's also this movie did a really good job of showing, like, the barbarity of the ruling class while calling the others barbarians. I thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, same.
And it was also, like, this allowed you to nerd out. Like, it was quoting Cicero and Virgil and lots of, like, cool, like, okay, this is a great time to bring this up. Kai and I have been talking lately about this thing. I don't know if it was a meme. I don't know what you would call it. The whole discussion about a year ago of how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Literally every day, like a little boy. Like, since I was in school, like, always. It's crazy.
Me too. I don't know who can live in the American Empire and not think about the Roman Empire every day.
Not even just that. Like, I was just so invested in all of my history classes. Like, that was definitely my favorite thing, learning about ancient civilizations and different empires and how they conquered each other and how things came to be. And, like, that truly fascinates me so much.
Yeah,
so I do think about it every day.
It's cool because it's so well documented. It's also like there were so many firsts in Rome's, right? It was the Republic, and they had the first road, Appian Way, right? That was like the first paved road, and they had the aqueducts and, like, this really interesting.
They weren't the first to have the aqueducts, though.
Oh, okay. Who was the first to have the aqueducts?
I think it was either the Aztecs or the Mayans.
Ooh. Well, and interesting, also, we credit the Greeks with democracy, right? But is there a democracy that we can find prior to the Greeks? Then we think of the Romans with the Republic, but is there... that's a great point that we could totally, like, sidebar on at some point, and I would love to look into further, is how many things do we credit to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans that were done either at the same time or prior by possibly people in Asia or even in the Americas? We think of the Americas as being, like, unsettled.
Things. Yeah, I think most things. We should turn into a history podcast.
That'd be cool. That. You should watch that series I told you about, that Graham Hancock series. Was it Ancient Apocalypse season 2 about the Americas? Yeah. It's cool. He goes into a lot of things that were happening, like the size of the empires that were happening in the Americas at a period where we thought that this was, like, there was no civilization and there were these vast empires. But yeah, speaking of this empire, there's so many interesting elements to Rome. And I think that everything, obviously the politics of Rome, you can apply pretty cleanly and neatly to the politics of America. And this one, like, there was even a quote, like, at one point, I think, it's the guy that conspires with Denzel Washington's character. Denzel Washington plays a former slave of Marcus Aurelius who has become a slave owner, gladiator owner, who aspires to be the emperor. And
he was such an epic character.
He was such an epic character. There's this one moment where he says, "That's politics," and he hisses like a snake, and he's like the snakiest dude ever. It's amazing. But he is great. And the dude that he conspires with, the guy he first, like, he basically keeps getting into, he has Lucius, who he knows is a great fighter. He keeps betting against this other gladiator owner.
This is
of,
so,
like, my guy's
like,
gonna kill your
relevant today
guy
because of gambling and stuff. and like Twitch
Yeah, and fighting.
gambling and like all of these things. It's
But
crazy.
he keeps beating this guy. He keeps using his fighter to beat this guy and doubling down. And then at one moment he walks into the guy's house and he's like, "I own your house."
Yeah.
It was
Hilarious.
Yeah, and so he gets the guy to essentially work for him. He takes everything the guy has and gets the guy to conspire with him to achieve his own ends. But that guy at one point says politics follow power. And I was like, wow, that's so... Everything that they're doing is so... The movie is about ancient Rome, but it could be about our world today. Like, nothing has changed. I guess it's just... It's
I thought
human
that
nature.
the whole time.
And do you think that's the nature of democracies, representative governments? Do you think that's the nature of power? Do you think power is the nature of humanity? Do you think that... Because, like, one thing I realized when watching this, is I think about this a lot, is, like, why don't people revolt more often when things aren't good? Which eventually the people in the stadium do. Because you see, like, the minute it's sort of... It's the moment where somebody armed fires on a protester, and then the protesters realize, like, oh, wait, there's more of us than them.
Yeah.
And the people in the Colosseum looks awesome, by the way. Rome looks so good in this. Everything in Rome, it looks so good. It's unbelievable. You could just look at any frame in this movie as a still of what Roman life probably looked like, and it's incredible. It's just like packed with detail.
It's really great.
But the moment where the citizens realize that, because they're when the emperors realize there's a plot against them and they start to like undo the plot, they bring guards into the Colosseum and they put guards armed with bow and arrows kind of like every couple feet around the whole perimeter of the Colosseum. And so at one point things start getting dicey and the archers start firing on the crowd, and the crowd immediately overtakes them. And also the people in power in this movie have to hide constantly to not get overthrown by the citizens. And then you just realize the only reason that anybody has any power in the movie and in life is because other people let them have power. And like, why? Are the rest of the people, do they think they're too weak to take power? Or is it like, let that be other people's problem, just let me live my life? What do you think it is? Do you think certain people aspire to power, other people don't? Or do you think everyone aspires to power and isn't strong enough to take it for themselves?
That's a loaded question. I mean, we see it like pretty heavy with Denzel Washington's character, how he kind of just like plays the part that he is going to, I guess, obey, and like he's on the side of the Republic, and then we see like his character unfold. And I think that even with like the two brothers, you see that too.
Well, he's Denzel Washington's character is on the side of himself. He says a couple interesting things. There's a line he quotes from Marcus.
But he disguises himself really easy, really for the most.
Correct.
Of it.
He plays the game really well. He's the best player in the game until he's not. Right.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, what the movie does is it untopples the game, and it goes back to the vision of Rome as a place that is a place to. I guess a place where they quote it better in the movie. Just watch the movie, but the dream of Rome is a place where men can be free. And of course, like the reality of the Roman system was that there were free people and then tons of slaves that did all the work so that the free people could live well. But that's ancient times. It's the way things typically were. But the idea of the movie, yes, is really nice, is that they want to take the power away from the corrupt and give it back to the people, because that's what Lucius's grandpa wanted to do. But interestingly enough, his grandpa was a slave owner who owned Denzel Washington's character, who read in Marcus Aurelius's journal a line, this is a paraphrase of it, but something, it was, if you want revenge, become the opposite of the man who caused you injury. Mm-hmm. And so Marcus Aurelius like said he wanted to be this guy who created this beautiful Rome, and this guy Denzel Washington's character basically wants to see the whole thing burn. He's kind of like the Joker, and that he just wants to burn the society down, and he wants power for himself, whereas the Joker just wants anarchy. But there was another good quote that I think I wrote it down that his character has. It doesn't matter. I don't want to waste too much time. But yeah, his character was awesome, and it did it like it made me think about that. Really, this corrupt system creates these monsters. So if Marcus Aurelius hadn't had a slave, then this dude wouldn't have wanted to burn the system down. So like I think any system that has a certain amount of corruption in it can't ever truly thrive, because like you spit on people and you put them down and you take away their agency, and you do that to people too much, and eventually it's going to backfire on you. People are going to get sick of it. And I think what's interesting, if you look at and I think about this a lot, of thinking about our society today, of like there are things people should be more angry about than they are. But are we... I'm going to tangent for a minute. I think a lot about that you can be really comfortable today, physically, and still be in a really bad spot. But like you can be relatively... Like you can have a mountain of debt on top of you and no hope of ever paying that debt off ever in your life. You're never going to pay it off. And you're living subsistence, but and sure, there's people starving in America. Absolutely. And there's people who don't have a roof over their head. Absolutely. That happens. But there aren't enough people in that situation to like revolt, at least unless it's like the result of mental illness or something. But like most people who are in a situation where others are taking advantage of them and their lives aren't what they could be, are comfortable enough. It's not ancient Rome. It's not where like you would get some horrible disease and you would die from it, and you were struggling to get breadcrumbs on the streets. And
I mean, that was like a main thing in the movie where they talked about how like the people, like Rome is such an amazing empire. It's the greatest empire, the strongest people, and literally everyone was in poverty, like begging for food. Every single person there. And
we don't quite have that. We have a lot of things, and it's also like Marcus Aurelius, sorry, not Marcus Aurelius, but the Denzel's character, the line I was trying to think of, he says like a slave doesn't dream to be free, a slave dreams to have his own slave. And that was like the Cicero quote, I think. And then he also says like, where else but Rome can you be a slave, get free, and potentially become the emperor? Like that's pretty wild to think about. And that's totally the American dream, right? Is you can pull yourself up from your bootstraps and become anything. But there's also like, while we don't have necessarily the abject poverty that Rome did, the debt burden that we have in this country is ridiculous. And like if you think about that, like if you think about becoming free, and I'm not comparing debt to slavery, but are what's holding us back in society today, the thing that I think a lot of Americans struggle with, is the fact that there is a very small group of banks and people who will lend you money who have such control over everybody. So you end up like taking your own power away because you rack up this debt because you think you need all this stuff that you really don't need, you probably don't even want, and then you end up working more than you need to, or working a job that you hate, or never being able to go do what you really want to do, or even just relax because you've got this mountain of debt hanging over your head. So like, is that generally speaking an improvement of society, that we've gone from people begging for breadcrumbs on the streets and slavery to debt? Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a vast improvement. But it doesn't mean you still can't be angry about the situation that we've got with the debt. And like, I think that's like almost like a psyops thing, where we've been marketed to for so many generations to buy. Oh, and if you can't afford it, get this credit card. And if you can't afford that, here's a loan to buy this. It's like, that's the form of control that we're under today.
I mean, I always talk about this with you. Just go into debt, buy whatever you want, live the life you want, and then don't have kids. Don't
but you still have
isolate yourself. It's fine.
Mumsy is outside dancing right now, and she thinks I can see her, but the lights are off, so she's just like a shape bouncing. She's trying to distract me and make me laugh. But but then you still have the debt.
Declare bankruptcy.
Why not just live within your means and save money and then not have to work? That's a lot better path than the one you're talking about.
Yeah, but if that's
just
not something you can
live
I
below
don't
your
know.
means for like 10 years, save enough money that money can then make money on its own, and you're living off of interest.
Yeah, but
Easier said than done.
exactly.
But you're
People make bad
exactly
decisions. Also, I with manifestation, the more you spend, the more you receive. The more you put out into the universe, the more you receive. And I fully believe that with money. So
oh,
I don't know.
I now know. I now know that wherever you got that manifestation information from was 100% funded by MasterCard. Because
No. No. I have great credit, you guys. I'm doing well.
yeah, they give you great credit so that you keep racking up debt, and then
No.
your credit limit gets higher, then your credit limit gets higher, and then you can never get out from under it. And you're working for
fine.
them.
Out of
Okay.
sight, out of mind.
There's so many like brilliant little moments in this movie, like also the monkey in a diaper that the one emperor had on his shoulder,
Yes.
and then
The brothers
that
were
monkey
really
becomes
interesting characters.
yeah.
They had like clown makeup on. I genuinely could not take it's Joseph Quinn, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could not take him seriously, his little accent. Like I was not expecting that. When I first saw that like he was going to be in the movie, I was expecting him to be like, oh, like a normal like a fighter or something, but his silly demeanor was crazy, and the voice, the accent was nuts from both of the brothers. I don't know who the other guy's name
He was from White Lotus.
is. Yeah, but I don't know his name.
Me either. But yeah, those dudes were such clowns, such like unbelievable clowns, and like the exact like yes, this is after generation and generation and generation of degradation. This is who leads, and that's what really happened. There was you heard about like Nero fiddling his Rome burned, or Caligula, who may or may not have been syphilitic, which they implied that the one brother, the monkey brother, was. They said like the disease from his loins is spreading to his brains, which I assumed to be syphilis. That was a Caligula at one point. There's so many good Caligula anecdotes. There's one where there's like this might be apocryphal, but he would have his chariot and he would have men in front of his chariot pulling it, and he would be whipping them like as if they were horses.
Oh wow.
And then also he would walk around at night and scream at the moon because he wanted the sun to rise. He believed he was a god, and that the sun should rise when he wanted and the moon should rise when he wanted. And
I heard that, but I didn't know that why he did that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination, I think, of being raised to believe that you're a man god and syphilis. It's a potent combination.
Well, my favorite part that I thought was hilarious was during like the Colosseum battles when Joseph Quinn would like pretend he was talking to the gods, and he would raise his hand and do this whole dramatic thing, and then he'd like show like if the duel was off or not, and I just thought it was hilarious. I couldn't help but laugh during that, genuinely.
Yeah, summoning the power of the gods, and you realize like the emperor has no clothes in those moments.
Yeah.
It's so 2 hours into this movie, I had to go to the bathroom so bad, but I couldn't because something great happens like every 60 seconds. Anybody who went to the bathroom during this movie missed something incredible.
I am so blessed. I literally go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. I didn't go once during this. It was so impressive for me, I think. I was so happy about it. Yeah.
Good for you. So a couple of other really good lines is at one point Lucius has to go out to save his mother, who is they're basically killing his mom for conspiring against the twin emperors, and they have her like on a stake out in the middle of the battlefield, and they send Lucius out to fight off, I don't know, like 50 Praetorian guards. And they go to give him a wooden sword to do it, little do they know, he has the keys to the jail cell that he's in. He's unlocked it. He smashes the door in the guy that's giving him the sword's face, throws the guy on the ground, and stabs the wooden blade through the guy's throat.
That was so graphic.
It was so graphic. And then he says to the guy, wood or steel, a point is still a point. Like, such a good line. And then the rallying cry of strength and honor. Like, people are going to be using that. The internet will run with that. There was a thing that happened. Did you ever see the movie The 300?
No.
It's about the Spartans, and 300 Spartans that faced off 10,000 Persians was this war for Sparta. And it's actually the opening scene in the movie The 300 is the Spartan baby on the hill that we talked about from last week. That is our family myth of what we do to our babies when they're born, is put them on a hill at night to survive. That scene is in that movie at the beginning. But anyways, there's this
Did you ask Atlas about that?
And yeah, he was like, oh, it's so annoying when you say that. He was like,
oh my god.
You know the exact face that he made too when I said that. It was great. But his like shoulders went down, his head went up. That movie, The 300, when it came out, there's a moment where the Persians come and tell the Spartans to lay down their swords, and the leader of the Spartan army says, come and take them. And he knows he's got 10,000 people coming after his 300, and he says, come and take them. And like, in Latin for come and take them is molon labe, which has like become a rallying cry for the Second Amendment. People say molon labe. Like, if you see a molon labe sticker on a car, that's a Second Amendment proponent basically telling the government, like, if you want to take away my guns, come and take them. And I feel like similarly, strength and honor, that is going to get like memed. People are going to be using it, and if they're not, they should be. There's so many things like that in this. I think the wood or steel, a point is still a point, should be memed. Strength and honor should be memed. There's like a bunch of them in this. It was really, really good. Oh, you know, Ridley Scott is like 80 something years old.
Yeah.
86.
Did he just direct this?
He directed it and I believe produced it, but interesting point about Ridley Scott, he didn't start directing movies until he was 40.
You still have time to do something great.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, he directed his first movie when he was 40, and now he's 46 years into it, and he does this.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Most people at 86, what are they doing? If they're even in decent health, they're like watching game shows. And this dude is making this movie. He's at the top of his game, I think. I think this is, granted, he's made some of like the best movies that have ever been made. He's one of a handful of guys that have made the movies that I think people my age or even my parents' age and younger think of as being like the big movies. Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, obviously. He's worked across so many genres. He's made comedies. Matchstick Men is a really good comedy if you want to check that out. I like can't think of a genre he hasn't done and done well. The dude is it's like him, Spielberg, Martin Scorsese. There's like a handful of these guys that are like absolute legends that are still killing it today, and he's older than those guys and still doing it. And like that's just so impressive and inspiring.
Someone for you to look up to.
Oh my God, just stop.
Yeah.
So actually, I do really look up to Ridley Scott, and Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies. Next week, we're going to share our favorite movies list with you guys, but Blade Runner is on my list, spoiler. And I one time had, back when the ArcLight in LA was open, it was like the best theater ever.
So
and
good.
Blade Runner has been edited and re-edited so many times, and there's a final definitive director's cut, and I was going to screen that director's cut at the ArcLight with Ridley Scott there to do a Q&A after. And so this is a hard ticket to get. LA is filled with nerds. So this is like the nerds of the nerds who want to see this movie. We're there, and it's not starting. It's taking forever. Like, oh my god, what is going on? Why aren't they starting this movie? And then at the ArcLight, one of the things that they did there was there would always be an usher that would come out and introduce the movie and provide a little like color commentary. And so the usher comes out and everybody's cheering, but I can see the look on this usher's face, and it does not look good. And the usher comes out and is like, I'm so sorry to tell everybody this, but Ridley Scott is in a sound mix across town, and he is not going to make it into tonight's screening. People lost their minds. So like screaming, nerds freaking out. Nobody wants to stay and see the movie, so they offered everybody their money back. But I never got to have that experience. I would have been. I was in like the third row. I would have been right there. Ridley Scott Q&A, definitive director's cut of Blade Runner, taken away from me because the dude makes too many movies and got stuck in a sound mix.
I guess.
I get it, but also you got to think about that. Like, shouldn't we all have been happy that he was so dedicated to his craft that he wasn't going to go screen one of his old works because he was working on the new one? Maybe. Oh, bruh. Movie that you dug that we watched that's also Ridley Scott. The Last Duel. Not a fan? I thought you liked it. No?
No.
Did I just step on a landmine?
Your other kid. Yeah, you're thinking of your other kid. There were times. There were. I always say that. I'm like, oh, that's your other family. That's your other kid. No, there were times when you would recommend like a movie to me. I can't remember. It was The Last Duel, and then you recommended another one to me, like back to back, and I watched them both, and I wanted to cry my eyes out. So you hated it. I hated both. You hated The Last Duel. I love The Last Duel. I thought The Last Duel was great. I'm gonna look up text messages. I know. I think you liked it. I think you sent me positive text messages. I'm calling you out on these lies. I will not be slandered. You're 17. There's no way you have a text from that. It was 3 years ago. Nice. No way. 3 years ago. 3 years ago. The movie came out in 2021. Okay. But anyway, what? I don't know where I was gonna go before that. Before you totally threw me off there. Was it about a recent Ridley Scott movie? Probably. I think it was. I love The Last Duel. I thought it was awesome. The dude has made so many movies. It's like hard to find movies on a list of his movies. House of Gucci, I didn't see. Oh my god. I saw that. Martian, I didn't know that was by him. Prometheus. Yeah. House of Gucci was really good. I haven't seen that. Prometheus is so good. It's such a weird like alien prequel. It's incredible. Thelma and Louise. These movies are all the movies that my weird middle school, I don't even remember what the class was. He was an English teacher, but he was so weird, and he would just show us these types of movies all the time. I was like in some sort of mythological class, and that's like what we did. All I can think about when I think about that teacher is like, you have never seen a dude in your life that looks more like a Lord of the Rings fanboy. Yeah. Like you could see this guy from like a mile away. Like, oh, that guy loves Gandalf. It's just, and another funny thing is I can't also, this is like the weird memory stuff where you implant things into memories or you implant yourself into situations you weren't in, into other people's memories. Yeah. Who saw him fall down the stairs? Was that Mumsy or me? I don't know if it was you or Mommy, but I remember you telling me that. But it makes total sense. Well, the thing is that I can picture it so easily because this dude was always carrying like armful of books. I can picture him just falling down the stairs and books flying everywhere. Like the longest red hair, like the clothes he would wear looked like so slobby nerd boy in a cave somewhere gaming. Like, oh my god, he would nerd out in our classes. It was crazy. He was definitely like one of my best teachers, I would say, though. This is like one of those police description things where if we were describing this to somebody, anybody based on our just now description could draw this person. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so at the end when there is a fight. And first of all, when Lucilla got killed, people in the theater were mad. At this point, the theater had an appropriate reaction. People were like, "Ooh, boo!" Yeah, the two people. People were very angry.
in the theater, and then shortly thereafter that, there's a fight between the young guy and the old guy, and all I could think of, it was really funny. I wouldn't have thought this because Maximus dies at the end of Gladiator, so I kind of thought Lucius was going to die, and I was like, this movie could totally have Denzel kill. I can't remember the name of Denzel's character, but like Denzel could kill Lucius right now.
Marcius, something like that. But yeah.
And
I also thought that
a lot of Latin names.
The whole time, like his mother had been saying, like it would be an honor to die for Rome, and like Pedro Pascal's character, he said that same thing too, and he died for Rome. So I'm thinking like all three of them are going to die. Sorry, spoilers.
It wouldn't have surprised me. But anyway, the thing I was thinking when the old man, the formerly very tough old man, goes to fight the young man, all I could think about was Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. I was like, a dude in his 60s has no chance against somebody in their 20s. It's just biology.
All of these fights were just like reminding me of UFC fights the whole time. Like
these fights in movies have gotten so good. And what also was cool about the fights in this movie and the battle sequences in this movie, they were huge and epic and kind of short, which I thought felt like appropriate. Like I got enough battle, but it wasn't to the point. Sometimes these movies, and like Game of Thrones got to that point where there would be like these 25-minute battle sequences. And I'm like, get it over with already, because I like to see the spectacle in the battle, but ultimately it's like the political maneuvering and the dialogue and the character relationships that are interesting. At a certain point, if I want to see battle, I'll play a video game and I'll just do the battle myself. Like that's a lot more fun. But the end of the movie takes place underneath the gates of Rome, and it's like worship of power versus freedom, and freedom in this case wins, and it's a beautiful ending, and the Gladiator theme comes back on, and it is everything I wanted it to be and more. Let's see what the critics think.
Tears in my eyes.
Tears?
There were tears in my eyes. The last maybe 10 minutes.
Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 70. By the way, Gladiator won Best Picture, so I feel like regular critics are going to hate it because they're going to say it's not as good and why was it made and all the reasons that I didn't think it was going to be great. So we got 315 reviews. It's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but a 71%, which is like at the low end of the certified fresh. Let's see somebody who dug it. The insistence in creating parallels between the two Gladiator films and between Lucius and Maximus occasionally yields poetic results, though in general the outcome is contrived. Whatever. Somebody else who liked it from Slate: if you're paying attention, despite the copious gore, Denzel having the time of his life as a scenery-chewing villain, and of course the sharks, you'll leave the movie with a far deeper grasp of Rome as it actually was. I am down with that. I agree. Like Denzel, everybody's good in it, but every time Denzel was on the screen, I was smiling. He was so good.
So great. And he's the villain.
He's the villain. The villains are always the best. Like we said last week, the villains are in a good movie. The villains have the best lines, and often are the ones speaking the truth, which is interesting because he's calling for the truth and he calls out the hypocrisy of the entire system. But then, what makes him a villain versus a hero is that he takes that hypocrisy and instead of doing something about it to make the society good, he wants to burn the society down for his own power. Someone says, "Are you not entertained?" No, I'm not, but some people will be. Like that's not even clever. Come on. Yeah,
a lot of people did not like this.
What about Letterboxd? Did Letterboxd hating on it?
Yeah. Lots of haters.
Somebody, one of the reviews here says society's first downfall started when men stopped wearing skirts.
Yeah.
In the Coliseum, we all fam.
In the club, we all fam. That's a TikTok.
Is this a meme that I don't know? Oh, it's a TikTok?
You don't know it. You're too old.
Oh, whatever. I'm just not on the internet like that. 3.4 stars on Letterboxd. It falls into the same... Man, this is actually... Letterboxd is so interesting. Since anybody can post reviews, it really is, like, democratic in the sense that, like, some people like movies, some people don't. And like nothing ever
Yeah.
is 5 stars the way that like professional critics are, because I think that this is really what the people think. And like people like movies that critics sometimes hate, and people hate movies that critics like. But for the most part, like some people like movies and some people don't. And that's great.
Yeah. There are 2 good reviews back to back. My favorite part is when Denzel Washington, and then the other one is seeing Paul Mescal's side profile on an IMAX screen is what the movies were made for. And I totally agree. I agree.
That's really funny. I told Kaya this. She's gonna be embarrassed that I'm saying this. I Googled and am following Paul Mescal workout routine. That
Yeah,
it is.
he literally, this is crazy, okay? I know you're not on social media, but I know you're chronically online. He literally told me, "Oh yeah, I'm doing Paul Mescal's winter arc workout routine." That's crazy. That's so niche. Who knows that? Like you're a full adult, not on social media, and you texted me that. That's crazy.
I also have a lot of spare time on my hands, and I have things I'm interested in. One of them is working out. Another is movies. Dude looks crazy ripped in this movie. I want to look like that. I want that power. I want Lucius power.
You sound like
And
all the
aesthetics.
little boys that I'm friends with. Like, I can't.
Yeah, but okay, despite the fact that I'm not on social media, I would say that my life in general is more similar to like an early 20-year-old's life than
Yeah.
most people my age.
I agree, for sure.
So it's
You're very young. You're youthful. It's actually really nice for me because I feel like I can talk to you and my mother about everything because you guys have seen it. Like you're very tapped in. Like the way
Yeah.
that I talk to my parents is the way that I would talk to my friends.
aside from some like niche social media things that Mumsy would know that I do not.
I mean, I still try to fill you guys in. You at least with memes.
Yeah, you keep me relevant. Mm-hmm. This is going to get so specific, and so, like, there's so many, I'm sure there's so many, like, Reddit and 4chan threads that go so deep into this with, like, weird body image stuff. But if this movie would have been made, like, 10 years ago, to be the Gladiator, it would have had to be somebody like The Rock, who looks, like, juiced out of their mind. And nobody looked like that back then. And, like, they couldn't have, because that's not natural. No human can look like that without, like, I'm going to call out The Rock. Like, very slim chance that a dude like that is not on steroids. I just don't think it's possible. I just think there's like certain elements to that seems unnatural. Whereas now the fights look more real in movies and are better, and the people, like the workout routines that this is so specific. The workout routines that they're putting these actors on is like probably attainable and probably closer to what somebody who was like doing those rowing and things like that back then would have looked like. Example being, so like that rowing thing where he was the last guy rowing, he was rowing forever. There's a scene like that in Conan the Barbarian, where like young Arnold is pushing this mill, very much like a phenomenal movie called The Mill. And he's pushing this mill, and you see him get older and older, and he's still pushing the mill. And at the end, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, like who, by the way, has admitted to doing steroids at the time when he was that size. So this is like,
haven't they all?
I think so, but I think that there's less of that now, and I think that is probably like for a culture that is chronically online, that is obsessed with body image, especially like young dudes. I think it's like really healthy that the physique that's unattainable without steroids isn't what movies are showcasing anymore. We're still showcasing horrific violence.
Yeah.
But this we talked about it earlier. The horror of the violence in this movie, I think, is actually good because the violence isn't sanitized. Like when Lucius cuts Denzel's hand off, it's so like the indignity of that, of him like getting his hand chopped off. Like it's not like he gets stabbed and we don't see it. We see like these people get their throats cut. We see them get their limbs chopped off. We see them have to deal with the horror of being
It also felt very
way.
Nonchalant, like just whatever.
Because I think that's the way sword fights were.
Yeah, it was.
Like I don't think it lasted. Like there's a movie I've been telling you to watch. I don't know if you have Timothée Chalamet as Henry, King Henry.
I haven't seen that one.
It's great. He is King Henry
That
of
has
England,
Lily
and
Rose
Lily
Depp
Rose
in it?
Depp play.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
I need to
the
watch
Princess
it.
of France. It's awesome. But there's a really great scene. I won't spoil what happens for you, but Chalamet has to fight a dude in armor in the mud. And it's so good because it's so real. Like how terrible
Yeah.
these guys are at fighting and watching them fight in the
Yeah.
mud. And I feel like this did a really good job of that. Of like a sword fight probably wasn't very long.
Yeah.
Even like amongst really skilled fighters, eventually a couple strokes in, somebody gets their hand cut off. Somebody gets stabbed. Somebody dies. I dug that about this and the fact that it really rode that line of big spectacle violence but horrific violence that's not like promoting violence.
Yeah,
in
for
a,
sure.
In a really like this was an anti-war movie that was nothing but war.
True.
So,
Very true.
who would you want to be? Which character?
Lucius.
He loses
'Cause he
everything
lives.
though. He loses his mom.
I know.
He loses his mom
His
twice.
wife.
Once
His mom
as well.
twice.
His mentor, the dude that like
parents,
adopted
yeah.
him, he gains respect for Pedro Pascal. We haven't talked about Pedro Pascal enough. He's awesome in this. And
He's
he's
great.
he's grappling with what he does and as a general in the Roman army and who he's fighting for, and he is in the process of planning a coup that eventually does happen.
I know who I would want to be.
Oh.
The like medic doctor guy who
That guy won. That guy won at life.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
gets sent to Rome as a slave. He fights for his freedom. He ends up becoming a doctor so he can heal other gladiators. He marries the love of his life, and now he's got kids and he's in Rome. I'm with you.
Yeah.
The doctor.
Yeah.
That was, and he also saves the empire.
he saved everyone.
Yeah, I'm with you. That doctor is the guy to be. Lucius's life sucks. Like I have a lot of respect for Lucius. If I had to strive to be like someone, I would want to strive to be like Lucius. He's a good role model.
His character,
I don't want to be him, like at all.
Yeah.
So that I want to have aspects of his personality, but I think that dude did too. Like I respect. I think the doctor's a really good role model. He didn't want to live a life of violence. He had to live a life of violence, and the minute he got out of it, as he says, like what we do in life echoes in eternity, and he spent a lot of time hurting people, and now he wants to help people, and he does. Like that is a sophisticated choice. I second you on that.
Deep cut.
Deep cut.
Yeah.
What else? We've been babbling for like an hour and 10 minutes here. I feel like I don't feel like we have to wrap it up, but I feel like we should.
Probably.
What are we seeing next week?
September 5th.
Oh, we're doing a double feature next week of September 5th and Munich, which Kaya has never seen. Well, I mean, you
I
can
don't wanna
watch it
see
like
an old one.
today.
But I want to watch it after because I don't want it to like make me feel bored. Like I know I don't know.
It won't. Munich is the aftermath. Munich is the revenge from the
Then I wanna
events
watch
of
it
September
after.
5th. Okay,
I'll watch
you're
it
watching in
after.
chronological order. But
Yeah.
I have to bring up one thing before we end. There's this movie you think is going to have a revenge arc. Because it does. Like, Denzel's character is out for revenge. But you think Lucius is out for revenge, and Lucius thinks Lucius is out for revenge. At one point, he takes a shot at who turns out to be his stepdad, but who is the guy who ordered the death of his wife. Just see it. You'll understand.
Yeah.
I, personally, as a human, I've tried to write some revenge movies before, and I can't do it. I don't understand it. I don't understand the drive for revenge. I understand if somebody wrongs you, wanting to like make the situation right, but I don't understand. I don't think anybody who gets revenge ever feels good about it. Like I think if somebody did something to you and you got them back, you'd be like, no, I just kind of suck. How do you feel about revenge?
I'm the same way. I'm your kid, so I think I don't know how much better it would feel to know that like you are doing better in life or that you can move on from things rather than spend the rest of your life focusing on that one person or that one thing because it won't ever make you happy. You'll
Yeah,
always be miserable.
you're wise beyond your years. But yeah, that to me, like this movie did that really well. Of Lucius thinks he wants revenge, and then he gets the opportunity for it, and he's like, "This isn't going to get me anywhere. This dude didn't even want to do this. Like this wasn't. This was like an unfortunate. The system is really who he needs to get revenge against. Whereas Denzel does want revenge, and he ends up getting his hand chopped off and then dying seconds later. So it's a very violent movie about revenge that is anti-violence, anti-revenge. I think you should go see it.
It's beautiful.
Anti-war.
Paul is beautiful. The movie is beautiful.
Wow.
Everything is great. It's good.
It's really, really good. Go see it. See it in the theater. This movie begs to be seen in the theater.
I think to go see it.
Yeah, I know. I might take Atlas to go see it on Friday, or maybe he said he doesn't want to. So I didn't tell you this. He wanted me to wait and see it Friday with him. And I wanted him to go today to see me. My reveal on this was going to be, this is the first solo movie I didn't go to solo because I was going to take him, but he didn't want to go today. But we had to do this podcast today, so I went. Now he doesn't want to go with me because it's only fun to go if we're seeing it together for the first time. So maybe Mumsy and Atlas will go see it on Friday or tomorrow.
I know she would love it.
And I'll take B to see Moana or Wicked.
Wicked. Yeah, have fun.
I will. What did they call it? Glicked? Gladiator and Wicked? They tried to Barbenheimer it? Like Hollywood tried to Barbenheimer it?
They did?
Like, oh, yeah. Glicked. Look it up. It looks like Glicked. It doesn't even look like Glicked.
Yeah.
But that was... This movie doesn't need any marketing gimmicks. It's just an awesome movie from a master of the art form at the height of his abilities, with an amazing cast, with the technology that doesn't look like technology. It doesn't look like CGI. I still don't know if that rhino is real or not.
Yeah. And that's why they just called it Gladiator 2, truly.
Yeah, at the end of this, I still... Something about it rubs me the wrong way. Do I have a better title? No, and they were probably the same. They're like, people are going to come see this? We can call it anything. It's Ridley Scott made Gladiator. He's now making another Gladiator. We like the first one. We'll like this one. All right. Well, thank you all. Please let us know in the comments what you dig, what you don't dig. If there's anything you think we should see, we do want to start doing more creative things like double features, like little mini film festivals, and putting out some lists for you guys. So let us know what you think. We hope you're digging it. Go see movies in the theater. Peace.
Swag money YOLO. That's my outro.
And cut.